Hello, welcome to Cardboard History. I'm David. Today I want to do a video response for Pepino Man, who is celebrating reaching the milestone of 3,000 subscribers. Congratulations, that is a fantastic accomplishment. Part of this VR challenge is to share our favorite card from each decade and a goal card, or a card that we would like to have from each decade. And Pepino Man said start in the 50s or go back as far as you want. So I thought, let's go back to the 1880s and try to go all the way back and work my way up through the decades. So let's start in 1880 with this Buckner gold coin Roger Connor. This is the only card from the 1880s in my collection. Picked it up a couple months ago, and if I was going to target a card from the 1880s, it would be from the same set. It would be this Billy Sunday. And the Billy Sunday card is one that I was really targeting at the National and couldn't find. But hopefully, over the next year, it'll show up somewhere. It's, I guess, more of an issue at this point of me being able to find it is the big challenge. So then the next decade, the 1890s, I don't have any cards from the 1890s. But one card that I am looking for, if it shows up, probably in a low enough grade that I can afford it, is this Amos Russi. He was a fantastic pitcher in the late 1800s, and partially, if not fully, responsible for the pitching mound being moved back to where it is today. Then moving up to the 1900s, I could have gone with any number of the T206 cards from my collection, but went with Orville Overall. He was one of the first cards that I targeted about 10, 15 years ago from this set, just because of his place as the last winning pitcher for the Cubs in the World Series prior to 2016. So this was probably this is the first real vintage pre-war card that I had in my collection. Was of Orville Overall. And a target card then for me would be the T206 Ty Cobb, probably the bat on or bat off shoulder version, just because I know the portrait ones just tend to be really expensive, and really would just love to have a Ty Cobb portrait or Ty Cobb T206 card in my collection. Moving on then to the 1910s. And my favorite card from that decade is this Evers Chance. And yes, it is Evers, not Evers. There was an interview with Johnny Evers, and he had said that it was supposed to be pronounced Evers, but everyone called him Evers, and he just went along with it. So it didn't seem to matter too much to him. It probably shouldn't matter too much to us these days. But this is the Mecca Cigarettes T201 that has Evers on one side and Chance on the other. If I had a target card then from the 1910s, that would be the W514 Joe Jackson. Working on trying to put together the Black Sox players in the W514 set, and Joe Jackson is definitely going to be the most challenging card, probably the last one that I pick up if I'm ever able to afford one. They're not cheap, even in pretty rough condition. The 1920s, favorite card. The 20s are definitely a weak spot in my collection, but had to go with this Turf Cigarettes George Sisler. I love the landscape view of this, and just kind of the overall view of the actual game and play, and not just an individual player. So this is my favorite card from the 20s, and a target card then is this E121 Walter Johnson. And I would be okay with either the series of 80 or series of 120, but this is, again, a card, kind of some of the last ones that I've shown, the Cobb, Jackson, are all cards that I'm looking for the Ken Burns collection that I'm doing. Moving on to the 30s, and the favorite card from the 30s that I have is my Babe Ruth Snell. And this it's about a year ago now that I picked this up. Love just how good of an eye appeal it has for being a one. It does have some damage on the back, which is perfectly okay with me. Love having a Playing Days Babe Ruth card in my collection. And at this point, I realized I'm kind of going into a Yankees territory, but they were so good in the 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s. The card that I am targeting in the 30s or would love to pick up is the 34 Lou Gehrig. Love that it's the image of Gehrig as well as the Lou Gehrig says at the bottom, and those two going together. On to the 40s, and my favorite card is perhaps a little bit lesser known from Topps, but this is their Topps Magic Photo 1948. This one has Tinker and Evers pictured on it. And I like this card because it is produced by Topps, and I have the entire Topps run for the Cubs. And this was one that I wanted to add to that run, even though it's not part of the traditional trading card. It's more of a photo, but love the small size and the fact that it features two great Cubs. A card that I'm targeting or looking for from the 40s is the 41 Play Ball DiMaggio. Again, fitting in with that run of Yankees there for a bit. Then going to the 50s, this might be my first time showing this card on my channel. This is my favorite card in my collection overall, and it is my 54 Banks rookie card. This was, I think when I first started getting into vintage, the one card that I would have called it my grail card because I had never spent this much on a card, and it was a card that seemed a little bit out of reach for me, but definitely through saving up was able to purchased it raw and sent it away to get graded, and was perfectly okay with it getting a 1. But this is definitely the favorite card in my collection. It sits in a case that I see from work every day. I work from home, so I don't take it in with me to work, but I love being able to see this picture of Banks and just the smile and the joy that's on his face. A target card then for me from the 50s would be the 53 Satchel Paige. I think these two cards kind of together tell the story of the integration, or part of the story of the integration of the Negro Leagues. Banks coming in as a young rookie, one of the new faces in baseball, and Paige, that card from the year before, you can just tell. I just love the picture of him and the way you can see the aging on his face, and if you've heard stories of Satchel Paige, that he had a long career and kind of a little bit of a mystery as to how old he actually was when he made his major league debut. Going on to the 60s, it was between the 61 Billy Williams and 61 Ron Santo. I went with the Billy Williams. Those two cards just always go together in my mind. And Billy Williams being a great Cubs Hall of Famer, his rookie card is just fantastic, and I love the 51 set as well. A target card for me then was the 50 Bazooka Ernie Banks. This is one I haven't really looked for too much, but just thinking through cards from the 60s that I would want, most of the ones that I would be targeting are going to be Cubs cards that aren't from their main Topps run. On to the 70s then, and again, a weak spot in my collection. So I went with this 52 O-Pee-Chee Billy Williams in action. So this is, I picked the 72 because I really like the design on this set with sort of the marquee top there, and then the printed in Canada is the O-Pee-Chee version. So I went with a little bit more difficult to find O-Pee-Chee version. And then the card that I would target in the 70s, and this is one I have been looking for a lot lately, is the 74 Lachlan Old Time Black Stars Josh Gibson. This card has skyrocketed in price, probably like 3 to 4 times what it was selling for a year ago. And so it's skyrocketed out of my reach for now, and we'll see if it comes back down to the ground. But this is could be considered his rookie card, even though it's not a Playing Days card. But Josh Gibson, obviously one of the great Negro League baseball players. On to the 80s, and going with Ryne Sandberg, I got an autographed rookie, or not rookie, sorry. There we go. Yes. Rookie, 83, not 84, 83. And this card was one that I had thought about sending away. Sandberg does a great job of TTM, and I was planning to send it away, and then I saw this one at a local card show, and the guy was willing to sell it for just $20. So I figured that was about how much I would spend sending away, getting one autographed, and I was really happy to pick this one up. A target card for the 80s is the Ken Griffey 89 Upper Deck. And this, just an iconic card in the hobby, and certainly one that's affordable. I just haven't really found the copy or been willing to spend the money on a good copy yet. So it's one that I will always catch my eye if I see it at a card shop or anything like that, and I'll stop and think about it for a while, but so far I haven't purchased it. On to the 90s. And for me, this is where I get into a little bit of my collecting history. And so went with a Sammy Sosa as my favorite card. This is him in White Sox before he was traded to the Cubs. But this card is just, for me, reminiscent of my childhood. I remember having a ton of these 90 Donruss cards. I remember using push pins to pin them to the inside of my closet wall to hang them up, and looking at them. So this card was one that back in the pandemic, when my parents were cleaning out their attic and got rid of all the cards that I had left there, this one was in the box, and it just kind of brings back those memories of the early days of collecting. If I had to pick a card then from the 90s that I wanted to target, it would also be a Sammy Sosa. And this is from the 1999 Topps set. They did a home run parade for both Sosa and for Mark McGwire to celebrate the 1998 home run chase. And there's a card for each home run that has the number in the background. So I chose the card number 66 for Sosa's 66th home run. I have maybe 6 or 7 of these cards so far, and so this would be the one that I'd want the most, and probably the most expensive card in the set because it was his final home run that he hit. On to the 2000s, and this 2003 Topps Update Gold Aramis Ramirez would be my favorite card from the early 2000s. This was one of the more challenging ones. I don't have a lot of really significant cards, but for me, this card represents a couple things. First of all, it's part of the gold variation, so it's numbered to 2003. I really like that Topps has kept doing this since 2001. I've been trying to put together the Topps Cubs run for gold, and so this was a great card. Ramirez was traded to the Cubs in 2003 and was part of the team that made a push to get to the World Series until the infamous Bartman game. And I remember watching that game and being heartbroken, and watching the ensuing games and watching them get eliminated. And that kind of sums up my Cubs fandom in the 2000s. So I think this card is an image of that. The only thing that would probably more demonstrate that is a card of Steve Bartman, but I don't know that I want that in my collection. A card then that I would target or be wanting to get, and this one's a little bit different than everything else I've shown so far, but it is the 2000 Bowman Tom Brady. And here it is. No, this is just a reprint version that I had pulled out when I was looking through stuff. But this was a card that I would love to pick up at some point. A huge Patriots fan going back to the 90s, and really enjoyed getting to watch Tom Brady's whole career, even when he left the Patriots. So that was a card that I've had my eye open for and will hope to pick up someday. Then the 2010s. Favorite card is this Topps Now that shows Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo on the final play of the 2016 World Series, where the Cubs won it all. And just love being part of this, watching it. This was during my first year of marriage, so I remember my wife really getting introduced to Cubs baseball, having not grown up in a sports family. And watching several World Series games with me and staying up late through the rain delay to watch the Cubs eventually clinch. And this is just a great memory, more so about the memory than it is about the card. But just remembering watching Kris Bryant field that grounder, smiling before he even had the ball in his glove, knowing that it was a routine play and that they were going to win the World Series. Then picking a card from the 2010s, I went with the Kris Bryant gold rookie card. So again, going with that gold set that I'm putting together, this is probably going to be the most expensive gold parallel to put together, to part of that collection. So that is one that I would love to pick up from the 2010s. And on to the 2020s. Favorite card from the 2020s is a little bit sad now that Morel's no longer with the Cubs, but love this card from 2023. This is the Gold Mirror SSP, and it shows Chris Morel in the Field of Dreams game. And growing up in the midst of cornfields, loved the Field of Dreams game, loved watching that. It was just a really cool moment to see the Cubs participate in that. And so I love also just the joy that is on his face. You can tell he's having a great time if he's on his phone or whatever, but just enjoying sort of the atmosphere of the Field of Dreams game. And then the target card for the 2020s. This was a challenging one because I don't have a lot of modern target cards. Usually it's just whenever the top set comes out, I'll try to put together the team set and move on from that. But I went through a couple and settled on the Topps Gilded Justin Steele. This is the gold etch parallel out of 50. And I love the darker border contrast with the gold etching on this card. And Steele has just been a great pitcher for the Cubs for the past 2-3 years. And this is a card that I've looked at a couple times bidding on, but I haven't purchased it. But I love just the design and the imagery on this card. So that is, for me, a card that I would love to pick up from the 2020s. So there we did it. We made it from the 1880s all the way through the 2020s. Thank you, Pepino Man, for putting out this challenge. It was a lot of fun to go through and just think through different decades in which cards I really enjoy. Give me the chance to show some cards that I haven't shown before that are a significant part and a meaningful part of my collection, and also to think through some things that maybe I should move a little bit higher on my list of what I'm looking for. So congratulations again on 3,000 subscribers. It's an awesome, huge milestone. And thank you everyone for watching Cardboard History.